Hello, classroom family. This is your professor, Mildred Boveda, and I am showing you right now the first page of your Blackboard. I am your professor, and I'm also your safekeeper. And some of you know, if you saw Tuesday's email message or if you saw this week 5 announcement on your first page of the course content, you will see that I was hospitalized earlier this week. I wasn't feeling that well. I actually had a follow-up doctor's visit today, so I thank all of you who took the time out to wish me well. I really appreciate it. And we're a classroom family. We may not see each other, but we are connected through EX3070. And speaking of seeing each other and being connected, on this page are your group assignments for your first collaborative group work. So I put you together based on what categories you chose for Module 2. Most of you are in groups of 3. Some of you are in groups of 4. Some of you are doing 2 categories, and some of you are just doing 1. Okay, and I'll get into like what the expectations are for those of you who are doing 2 categories. Each of these are the 13 official categories of IDEA which you were supposed to read and learn about in week 2. And what you're going to do for this assignment, this group assignment, is you're going to dig way deeper than you did for Module 2. So some of you, let me just explain to you real briefly. Some of you will, for example, have intellectual disability or traumatic brain injury. Just be mindful that this is not one huge category. These are 2 separate categories. Okay, so let's go to the email document that I'm sending to you. You're seeing what time I'm videotaping this. The email document. Okay. Okay, here we go. So in this document that I'm sending to you today, you will find, let's zoom in. You will find a description of what you're expected to do. Now, by the 17th, each group will let me know next Wednesday who will play what role within the group. Who's going to be a facilitator, communicator, or the person who makes sure all people in the group contribute. They're also the ones who are going to be communicating, and they're also going to be the facilitator is the one who's going to send me the email describing what your roles and responsibilities are by the 17th. And on the 19th, you're going to also tell me what day of the week or days, you're going to pick multiple days and times are convenient to meet simultaneously online. The recorder keeps notes and records the group's work on the form. So the form is going to be in this document that you're going to see in this email that I'm sending today, Friday. So the recorder will actually fill this out, and the recorder will take any notes for whenever you guys meet. The reporter is the person who's actually going to, or the people, because it could be all of you in your group if you want to, who's going to present the information during the actual group meeting. We're going to meet for 20 minutes. I'm going to be there, and so are your group members, and you're going to discuss what you found. You're going to make the presentation very interesting. Please do not bore each other. Do not bore me. Make it engaging. Make it interesting. Also, you are going to, in addition to meeting with me for 20 minutes and your group members, you're also going to prepare some kind of materials for your classmates to get this information. So you're going to get this chart and present it to your class, as well as like a PowerPoint or a video, something to bring in the message for this assignment to all of your class. To all of your class family, excuse me. Now, the checker is the person who's going to make sure that all of the information here is accurate. Why is this important? First of all, that's a very important role. So you'll see in the syllabus that this is worth a good chunk of your total grade. So it's worth a big percentage. And I'm not only going to grade you based on your 20-minute presentation and this form, I'm also going to, well, this form definitely. Make sure that everything is 100% accurate and well presented, both in your group presentations with me and in this document. The checker needs to make sure that the information is accurate. So I'm going to take into accountability or into account what you guys say about each other in terms of collaboration. I am going to give you a form where you're going to rate one another at the end of the project once you presented, and you're going to let me know whether everyone did their role. You're going to rate from 1 through 5 to what extent did people play their role. Now, at the same time, I don't want you to be passive aggressive. I don't want you to be in a group where you're doing all of the work and you don't say anything until the very end. The facilitator's role is to make sure that everybody's engaged, okay? If you're in a group and you find that people are not engaged, not talking, or not doing their role, email me. The sooner the better, because it may affect your grade, how or whether the whole group is working. I'm taking your collaboration just as much into account as the actual information that you're presenting. If you have any questions about that, don't hesitate to ask. Okay, so Wednesday you're going to tell me who's in the group and what they're doing. And on Friday, you're going to tell me the exact dates. And let's get into the actual document. What are you expected to do? Well, many of you already talked about the disability categories chosen. However, I want you to dig deeper. If you have 2 categories, you're going to create one of these charts for each category. Again, each category deserves its own chart. Why? Because almost all of the categories are umbrella categories with multiple conditions that can represent it. For example, if you're speech and language impaired, the disabilities that may fall under that umbrella range from language impairments or language processing issues, selective mutism, stuttering, which I just did accidentally, lisps, whatever it is. You're going to talk about those conditions or those symptoms or those characteristics, and then you're going to list how it is of implication in terms of what happens in the classroom. Some of you for Module 2 discussed accommodations or implications for the person's life or the family, but didn't give enough information about implications for the classroom, preferably the general education classroom. What would a general education teacher need or desire in order to include the student with this disability into the general ed classroom or in the classroom, period? What are physical arrangements or our physical accommodations, etc.? Okay, and then over here, you're going to talk about, this is really, really important, stressing this. It's very important that you point out measurable outcomes of this category. Now, what do I mean? Measurable outcomes are things, statistics like the percentage of incarceration. How many of people with this disability end up in jail compared to the general population? Or graduation rates. What's the graduation rate of a person with the category of disability versus a general education student? How about their college attendance rate, their marriage outcomes, their job opportunities? Any type of outcomes that you can statistically show about this category, students who have this category of disability, what is their outcome likely to be compared to others based on statistics? Now, why am I asking you to do that? Those of you who saw the Willowbrook video, which is almost everyone, saw Bernard as an example. It wasn't just Bernard. Somebody mentioned how Patty had a boyfriend. But we learned what happened to these patients/students of Willowbrook. We learned what happened to them afterwards, and Bernard especially discussed how he would have liked to have been a lawyer, but because he wasn't given adequate instruction and education earlier on, he feels like he didn't meet his full potential. I need you guys to have an understanding of what outcomes are. The purpose of special education and inclusion is not just to feel good that a person is in the room with general education students or in the school building. The purpose of special education and inclusion is to actually improve life outcomes for people with disabilities. So I want you to be very, very aware, at minimum, that's the starting point, aware of how that disability category, how they fare in society after they graduate. Or even in schools, you can also include statistics such as during their schools and years, their years in schools, excuse me, and you could tell that I'm sick. During their school years, are they more likely to be suspended? Are they likely to be in certain types of classes? Are they likely to I don't know. There's so many within school markers of abilities that you can take into account, but it has to be statistically backed, and it also has to be a comparison of achievement or outcomes for people with disabilities and those without. Then also you need to make sure that you cite your sources. Make sure that the sources are legitimate. If you have any questions about the legitimacy of your sources, don't hesitate to ask. So that's the gist of my expectations for this upcoming group assignment. I also have a video upcoming next week where I'm going to talk about Module 3 a little bit more in depth, but I want you to start working on this particular group assignment. It's been good being in communication with a lot of you. I have not received all of your phone numbers yet, but I will be making phone calls soon. I made a couple of phone calls this week. I want to make sure that you do not fall behind. I want to make sure that you are enjoying this online experience and getting the most out of it. So, but at the same time, you have to do your part. All right, remember, flexibility is a great part of online learning, but you have to stay engaged and remember to keep in touch. I have high expectations, but I also will give you just as much support. So, well, keep in touch, and toodaloo, and wishing you well, and goodbye.